Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Marijuana Commission gives an update on their latest work.
We've got the identity of the man who was shot through his bedroom window while sleeping.
The minister responsible for NIB lays out the plans to collect that $17 million owed to the company.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, as a Rastafarian group threatens legal action over its right to use cannabis, one Rasta leader is slamming critics of the group's decision. Priest Rithman McKinney, the Royal Ambassador of the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress, says the people he represents have been oppressed for decades and they refuse to wait for justice to be handed to them. Jared Higgs reports.
Every time the gun, he was getting shoot down by the gun. He was getting destroyed by the gun. He was getting the gun pushed in our face every day for the sacrament.
McKinney's group has sent government a letter demanding a response within 10 days to a request that it grant licenses for Rastafarians to use and cultivate cannabis based on its members' constitutional rights to religious freedom. The June 3rd letter from Monroe and Associates was addressed to Minister of Health Dr. Dwayne Sands and Attorney General Carl Bethel. Marijuana Commission co-chairman retired Bishop Simeon Hall said Rastafarians should wait for the commission to complete its work before commencing that legal action. However, McKinney says his group isn't willing to wait.
Mr. Hall said, "Be Miss Wait. Wait on what? I don't see the sense. What we miss wait for? We've been oppressed. He's supposed to say, well, it's time now you all free up the Rasta man and remove these from the grassroots. And stop blocking these young men, these little small people. It's about time now. Don't say this can open the door for this one and whatever. How far are you going to go? How far are you all going in French and Irish already?
Hall says he respects the Rastafarians' position as a religious group, despite not subscribing to their way of life. However, his self-described unsolicited advice didn't sit well with McKinney.
Sick and tired of being sick and tired. So to hear Mr. Hall say that, it makes me disrespected. I lose respect for him to say that. Honestly.
McKinney also fired back at Christian Council President Delton Fernander, who described the threat of legal action to the Tribune as a crafty way to force the government's hand. McKinney again stressed that members of the Rastafarian faith have waited a long time for their sacrament to be acknowledged, and even today, members of the group are being hauled before the courts.
A lot of our elders get locked up right now. How old is the Honorable? 56. And they lock him up the other day, and they charge him, and he have to pay a fine, and now he have to go take counsel. What kind of counsel you could give a 56-year-old Rastaman? Who counseled him? On what?
McKinney added that given that several Christian denominations are able to serve alcohol to minors, consideration ought to be given to members of his faith.
Not all the churches, but the church give their sacrament members liquor, but there is no medicinal liquor or medicinal alcohol. There's no medicinal cigarette or tobacco. So, and we know enough of our leaders use those things. Enough smoke cigarette up to the day. Enough drink a lot of alcohol, enough have alcohol problems. Sometimes we see them, we know they have junk, some of them even in House Assembly. So, who is them done? You know what I mean? Defense our rights.
The legalization of marijuana in the Bahamas has been a long-standing issue, but was reignited as a hot-button topic last year as other countries made major legislative shifts on the matter. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Meanwhile, co-chair of the Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana, Quinn McCartney, is insisting the commission will meet its August deadline to complete and submit recommendations to government on the controversial topic. Jasmine Brown has that.
Certainly the commission is aware that members of the public want this issue to be addressed as quickly as possible, but the Commission wants to make sure that we are very deliberative in our discussions and in our consultations, and we want to make sure that what we bring to the Bahamian public is something that would be of relevance to the Bahamas.
Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands revealed in May that the Bahamas National Commission on Marijuana has been given an additional 3 months to examine the issue. McCartney defended the need for more time, saying they needed to get a complete consensus.
We are pushing hard to make sure that we meet the deadline, but certainly what will affect us meeting that deadline are our planned trips to Jamaica and Canada, because certainly we'd want to make sure include those. So we're still waiting for arrangements to be finalized with those two countries.
McCartney was asked if one of those stakeholders that the commission plans on meeting with is the Rastafarian community. McCartney pointed out that a member of the Rastafarian community sits on the commission and that since the threats of legal action, they have not met with the Rastafarian community. However, he says they plan on it.
Certainly during the months of July and August, we intend to have private consultations as well as special consultations with various groups, the Christian community, the medical community, the legal community.
The commission began their work in January 2019. Cabinet approved the formation of the committee last July following recommendations by the Regional Commission on Marijuana, which presented its report on the social, economic, health, and legal issues surrounding marijuana in the region to CARICOM last year. McCartney says at the end of the day, they want to speak to everyone and all stakeholders involved. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Well, as the budget debate continued in the House of Assembly this afternoon, Works Minister Desmond Bannister defended fellow FNM MP Miriam Emanuel, who has become the subject of intense criticism after she repeatedly stumbled while trying to say the number 7.41 million. Bannister said the Michael MP made a mistake in public on the high stage of Parliament and has been criticized publicly, harshly, and unfairly.
She is a mother and a wife who sets a type of example that our young people can look up to, admire, and emulate. She is my friend. She is a virtuous woman that the Bible speaks about. Mr. Speaker, I admire the member for McCall for who she is and for the outstanding commitment to her family. We are fortunate to have her here in Parliament, and as I said before, one moment does not define her life.
The Public Works Minister also gave an update on plans to fix Ragged Island nearly 2 years since the passage of Hurricane Irma. During his contribution to the budget debate, Bannister said there's provisions in the budget for a $4 million school and hurricane shelter.
And as I indicated, challenges that many people in New Providence will not appreciate. The cost, the work involved, transportation costs, to be able to put a facility in a place like Ragged Island, where teachers can be accommodated with their living facilities, where you can accommodate the children, and where you can have a hurricane shelter for the community. And we must be able to do that, Mr. Speaker.
In 2017, Hurricane Irma ravaged the island, leaving it uninhabitable. Government has since committed to making it a green city. Just last month, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis said government would invest $8 million in Ragged Island's restoration, including a school and teachers duplex at a cost of $2 million and a $2.5 million clinic. However, Bannister said with all planned upgrades, taxpayers will probably end up spending nearly $12 million, but not all in 1 year.
We're looking to construct the administrative office, post office, the courtroom. The architectural designs are ongoing with that. And to construct a police station. Again, the architectural designs are ongoing. Mr. Speaker, having regard to the location of Ragged Island, and this is a challenge that we all have to face and we all have to anticipate. With all of those buildings being constructed, it is probably going to cost the Bahamian taxpayer approximately $12 million. Mr. Speaker.
In other news, the family of a 27-year-old man who was shot and killed on Saturday morning says he was trying to turn his life around after spending 2 years behind bars. Jared Higgs has more.
Now, according to police, it was around 2 a.m. when an armed gunman came to this green home on Sister Maria Raming Drive in Millennium Gardens. Family members say that gunman must have stood on something when he went to this bedroom window, stuck his hand inside and fired shots inside. There was a man sleeping inside that bedroom. He later died from his injuries. Police say the victim is 27-year-old Cordero Smith. Smith's sister, Carlisa McKenzie, didn't wish to appear on camera. However, she says she had a close bond with her brother. The grieving 23-year-old says Smith had encountered troubles during his life, including being shot on a previous occasion near a town centre mall. In an eerily similar incident in 2014, a woman who was pregnant with Smith's child was shot by a gunman while she was in the same Millennium Gardens home. Like Saturday's incident, the gunman reportedly fired the shots from outside the home at around 2:30 a.m. Relatives say the 27-year-old was recently released from prison on bail for an armed robbery charge and was reportedly being electronically monitored. His sister says the 2 years he spent behind bars encouraged him to be a better father to his 4-year-old son. Approximately 2 months after being released from jail and just hours before his death, Smith posted on Facebook, "The road, sweet, eh?"
I was wrenched to the gut. I couldn't believe it.
72-year-old George Turner lives down the street from where the shooting took place. He called the killing inhumane and insists that it was out of character for the neighborhood he has called home for 17 years.
Is this common in this area?
No, it's not. That is why it affected me so very badly. Because this is a very, everybody passes through here. What a lovely community. How could I get a house here?
Turner, a father of 3, lamented the habit of some young men who he says don't look before they leap. It's an issue he says some not so young people have as well.
Even the older people, I find this, they're simply too quick to react. Think before you leave. Take a look.
According to our news records, Smith's killing was the 39th homicide for 2019. A juvenile was stabbed to death early Monday morning, bringing the 2019 murder count to 40. Reporting for our news, I'm Jared Hayes.
Following his revelation in Parliament that the National Insurance Board is owed as much as $17 million in contributions, Minister Brenzel Rolle said NIB is actively pursuing employers who have failed to pay their employees' contributions. Jillian Gray reports.
While Rolle said they are giving companies time to respond, he said that time is running out and the next step will be prosecution.
They have been advised to firstly acknowledge that they owe NIB this money, and secondly, once that is done, the next step, of course, is to NIB has some provisions where you could be prosecuted in the courts for these funds.
Rolle said that some companies have failed to pay employee contributions for nearly a decade. Some of those companies no longer exist. In those cases, it will be hard for NIB to collect outstanding contributions. While the board is prepared to move forward with litigation, Rolle said he is first urging companies to live up to their obligations.
There are some high-class companies that exist who are just not doing their job.
In 2018, NIB paid out $292 million, but only took in $283 million. The public service minister called the whole situation unfortunate, as he says it negatively affects people's lives.
It is somewhat disheartening that companies and individuals would deduct monies from individuals' salary and not pay it to NIB, because at the end of the day, once they retire, they expect to get a benefit. And if that commitment of benefit is not paid, then we have an issue.
Rolle admitted that some of the blame lies with NIB, as officials there should not have allowed employers to get away with not paying for so long.
We signed an agreement for them, and perhaps we didn't pursue them as vigorously as we should have. And that's why I said yesterday that we are going to vigorously pursue businesses and companies and individuals.
Rolle urged employees to know their contribution and report if their payments are behind. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Thanks, Jillian. Still to come, the Water and Sewage Corporation reportedly owed $45 million. The details after this break.